Snark Squad, babes.
We are so back.
It's Saturday evening,
Yeah.
and babes, the drama. International. The vibes. Immaculate. And babes, we are here.
We are firmly, unapologetically here.
The drinks. Flowing.
Yeah.
Passion fruit mojitos. Because babes, we are here for the vibes.
And honestly, the tartness of the passion fruit is cutting right through the absolute psychological chaos we are about to unpack today. It is a necessary palate cleanser.
It truly is. But before we get into the heavy stuff, babes, for anyone watching the video stream, yes, we are eating.
Relentlessly eating.
Dal curry with naan. And babes, we wanted something a little healthier, but also delicious. And let us tell you, is creamy, is rich, it is literally everything.
It is structurally flawed.
I am fully obsessed. The way the spices are just, melding together. It's exactly the kind of warmth I need right now in my life.
Yeah, I mean, the cumin-garlic ratio is exceptionally balanced, and watching this garlic naan just absorb the dal is incredibly satisfying. But bestie, as we sit here enjoying this perfectly crafted meal, it brings me to the actual mission of today's conversation.
Oh, here we go.
We are looking at a completely different kind of recipe today. We are analyzing the brutal engineered mechanics of reality television manipulation.
They're so brutal.
Today, we are taking the international chaos of MTV Splitsvilla alongside the real-world messiness of our own listener submissions and examining the exact psychological mechanisms that cause human beings to betray their partners, sabotage their own wealth, and absolutely lose their minds in isolated environments.
Yes. Imagine being trapped in a house where your bank account drops to zero if you refuse to, psychologically destroy the person sleeping in the bed next to you.
Oh.
That is what we are dissecting today.
Exactly. We are looking at the game theory behind betrayal.
And honestly, we don't even have to look at television to see these dynamics play out because the human ego is fragile everywhere. Which brings me to my favorite part of the week. Babes, our DMs have been going wild.
Unhinged.
Shady, smarky, and straight up stupid submissions. So babes, we are diving in.
I have been waiting for this. The DMs are a fascinating sociological study of everyday chaos. What is the first case file on the docket?
Okay, listen to this, and you sitting right there at the table with us, our third bestie. Tell us what you think. Our first listener admits that her best friend had a massive falling out with another girl in their broader circle.
Okay, classic social fracture.
Right, the completely severed friendship. So what does our listener do?
Yeah.
She secretly starts flirting with that other girl's boyfriend.
Come on.
And now, they are fully dating.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. I am stressed. The sheer betrayal of the girl code. When your best friend goes to war with someone, you are supposed to be in the trenches with them. You are supposed to form a united front against the enemy. And instead, our listener is quietly crossing enemy lines and dating the rival's partner.
It is a bold, strategic move.
The emotional gymnastics required to look your best friend in the eye while texting the boyfriend of the woman she despises. I literally cannot fathom it. It feels completely shady.
Let's strip away the emotion for a second and look at the social mechanics at play here.
If you must.
Yes, the loyalty violation is significant. But from a purely strategic standpoint, I have to analyze why someone does this. In any social circle, there is an economy of status.
Okay, Mr. Analytics.
I'm serious. When the best friend and the rival had a falling out, a power vacuum was created. Our listener didn't just find this man attractive. The secrecy and the proximity to the rival made the connection illicit, which chemically increases dopamine.
Oh, so it's a science experiment now.
Essentially. The stealth required to pull off a covert flirtation while maintaining the facade of best friend solidarity requires immense focus. So, is it shady? Absolutely. But it's also a calculated risk. The real question is the endgame.
Which is going to be a disaster.
Correct. A secret relationship operates on borrowed time. Eventually, the social collision will happen. Verdict? Shady and structurally unsustainable.
Structurally unsustainable is the perfect way to phrase it. It's going to implode. All right, moving to the second submission. This listener says she lied about having a high-powered corporate job to impress a guy on a first date.
A classic maneuver.
But they've kept seeing each other, and he is now asking highly detailed, industry-specific questions. She doesn't know the terminology, and she's in way too deep.
The sunk cost fallacy of dating.
I'm getting secondhand anxiety just imagining it. You're sitting across a candlelit table, and he's asking about your Q3 deliverables, and you're just trying to aggressively sip your wine and change the subject.
Sip faster.
The pressure. Bestie, you need an exit strategy. I say fake a severe non-disclosure agreement. Just tell them the federal government will seize your assets if you discuss your quarterly projections. It is a messy situation, but we can fix it.
I have to disagree. We cannot fix this because this is a foundational failure of basic risk assessment.
Wow, harsh.
If you are going to invent a persona to artificially inflate your dating market value, you do not pick a career path that is entirely built on verifiable jargon.
That's true. You should be like a poet.
Tell him you consult for a niche nonprofit. Tell him you restore vintage textiles. Do not pick corporate finance. The failure here isn't the lie. It's the lack of preparation.
You expect her to do homework.
If you commit to the fraud, you must read the Wikipedia page. You must memorize 3 buzzwords: synergy, pivot, and bandwidth. That is all it takes to deflect a conversation. Verdict: a strategic misstep caused by a lack of foresight. Just incredibly stupid.
You are so clinical about fraud.
Well,
Okay, let's see how you handle this third one, because this is where I think we are going to fundamentally disagree.
try.
A listener reveals she went on a group trip, a massive friend group vacation.
Yeah.
She hooked up with a guy on the first night, fine.
Standard protocol.
But then she hooked up with a different guy in the exact same friend group on night 3. And now the vacation's over, and both men have found out.
I am already smiling.
I am spiraling. The tension. Why would you do that within the exact same closed social circle? You are essentially trapping yourself in a pressure cooker.
I see no issue.
Think about the group chat politics. Think about the sheer audacity of waking up in a shared Airbnb and having breakfast with 2 men who both think they have an exclusive connection with you. It disrupts the entire ecosystem of the friend group. Verdict: this is a chaotic, unnecessarily messy, and stupid situation.
I am stepping in. I am completely pushing back on this analysis.
How can you possibly defend destroying the group dynamic?
Because I'm looking at the economics of the vacation, babes. What do you mean unnecessarily messy? She maximized her return on investment.
Oh my.
You pay for the flight, you pay for the accommodation. You are dedicating your limited paid time off to this experience. She simply took the buffet approach to the itinerary.
But they were in the same friend group. They had to share the same rental cars.
And she was the undeniable center of gravity in those rental cars. We have to examine the double standard here. Historically and sociologically, men are celebrated for this exact kind of conquest on group trips. It's viewed as legendary behavior.
Well, yeah.
The only reason this is being framed as a mess is because we are dealing with the fragility of the male ego. These 2 men assumed they were the exclusive main character of her vacation. They were upset because they had to compare notes and realize they were just part of an ensemble cast.
You are enabling absolute chaos.
I am enabling efficiency. She didn't disrupt the ecosystem. She became the apex predator of the ecosystem. If you're listening to this right now and you submitted this story, I commend your time management skills. Verdict: analytically brilliant and highly iconic.
We are going to have to agree to disagree on the ethics of the buffet approach. But babes, it's Saturday, and we still have 2 days left.
We do.
You love that for us.
We truly do. The weekend is a finite resource.
Exactly. Which is why I am fully romanticizing my Sunday tomorrow. I am planning the ultimate soft life reset.
Oh boy. Here we go.
I want to wake up naturally around 7 a.m. I am going to make an iced matcha latte in one of those perfectly aesthetic ribbed glass cups.
Naturally.
I'm heading to the farmer's market to buy overpriced seasonal flowers, and then I'm just going to sit in a patch of sunlight, journal my intentions, and manifest absolute peace for the week ahead.
That is a beautiful, highly curated, completely fictional Pinterest board of a weekend.
It is not fictional.
And I respect the vision. But let us look at the statistical probability of Sunday. Let me tell you what is actually going to happen to me and probably to you, the listener, who is sitting right there with us navigating the modern work week.
Do not ruin my peace.
I am going to wake up precisely at noon. I am going to look at my phone, observe 4 unread text messages that require emotional labor to answer, and immediately switch my phone to Do Not Disturb.
Okay, that part is relatable.
I will heat up the leftover dal we are currently eating. I will stare at the ceiling, experiencing the profound psychological phenomenon known as the Sunday scaries, dreading the impending Monday morning, and then I will doom scroll Reddit until my retinas burn. That is the reality of the human condition.
Why do you reject joy? Why must everything be so stark and analytical?
I don't reject joy, I just find comfort in predictable patterns. We crave the soft life aesthetic, but our brains are wired to engage with the doom scroll chaos. Which, perfectly enough, transitions us right into the main event today.
It really does.
Because if anyone had a more psychologically damaging weekend than my hypothetical Sunday doom scroll, it was the cast of MTV Splitsvilla on our screens this week.
Oh my goodness, the international mess. I am still regulating my nervous system after watching the episode.
Yeah.
We need to break down every single mechanism of this show because it felt like watching a sociology experiment entirely go off the rails.
Let's establish the baseline for the listener who might not be intimately familiar with the architecture of this specific reality show. Splitsvilla is not just a dating show. It is an engineered economy.
It really is.
The contestants are isolated in a villa. They are not just looking for love. They are competing for power, specifically split coins, which function as the internal currency.
Right, and the ultimate goal is to become an ideal match. Which isn't just about romantic feelings. Becoming an ideal match means you go to the Oracle, which is essentially a producer-controlled algorithm that decides if you are mathematically compatible.
A completely arbitrary algorithm, by the way.
Completely arbitrary.
Okay.
But if the Oracle says yes, you get the ultimate power. You get to sit on the throne, you are immune from elimination, and you hold the power to dump other contestants.
Precisely. It is a brilliant design because it forces contestants to constantly weigh their genuine romantic connections against strategic alliances that could win them safety.
Yeah.
You might actually like someone, but if the Oracle says you aren't a match, you have to decide whether to stay with them and risk elimination or pivot to someone else for the sake of the game.
So, keeping that architecture in mind, let's set the scene with the dome session. We walk into the dome. The power dynamics are incredibly tense. Gullu and Kaira have been voted by the unsafe contestants to face the Oracle.
High stakes.
And the Oracle declares them an ideal match. The lights flash, the music swells, and instantly the hierarchy shifts. Because they are the new ideal match, they get to unseat the current reigning couple, Sohrab and Niharika, from the throne.
This is a
And Gullu and Kaira, who are now drunk on this sudden influx of authority, decide they're going to exercise their new power by dumping two strong competitors, Anisha and Mohit.
Right. Gullu and Kaira make their decree. They think they have just executed a major power play. But then the producers introduce the ultimate equalizer, the Mischief Box.
I screamed.
The Mischief Box is essentially a black swan event in the game's economy. It is an unpredictable variable designed entirely to punish predictability and strip players of their perceived control.
The box opens, and a scroll is read. It announces that Gullu and Kaira's votes, their big, dramatic power play, mean absolutely nothing.
Zero impact.
The twist is that only the previous ideal match gets their votes honored, meaning the freshly demoted Sohrab and Niharika are actually the ones holding the executioner's axe. And Sohrab and Niharika had secretly voted to dump Harshit and Anisha. Double elimination, boom, they are gone.
It was an absolute masterclass in narrative rug pulling. But let's analyze the brilliance of how this played out for Sohrab and Niharika. In game theory, the ideal move is to eliminate your strongest opponents while incurring the least amount of social retaliation.
Yeah, you don't want the target on your back.
Exactly. Gullu and Kaira looked like arrogant fools. They sat on the throne, declared their enemies, and then realized their weapons weren't loaded. They took all the initial heat from the room. Meanwhile, Sohrab and Niharika managed to take out two massive players, Harshit and Anisha, without looking like the immediate villains.
Because they didn't know their votes were the only ones that would count.
Exactly. They can walk back into the villa, hold their hands up, and say, hey, we didn't know the twist was coming. It wasn't malicious. It was just the game. They got all the blood, but none of the splatter on their shirts. It was accidental brilliance, but in an environment like this, a smart player claims every victory.
It was brilliant, but it was devastating. Preet, who was deeply connected to Harshit, was left completely destroyed. She looked like she was in genuine mourning. But the show's structure doesn't allow time for grief, because the very next morning, the game descends into a completely different kind of madness.
The emotional whiplash is intense.
The contestants are summoned to the Mischief Den.
And this is where the producers deploy their agent of chaos. Baser enters the environment.
Baser. Okay, we have to talk about his entrance. While scrolling the Reddit threads, people were having a field day with this. He walks in acting like a Bond villain, the dramatic pacing, the intense stares, and the accent.
The accent was a choice.
He was giving high school theater kid who just discovered the Stanislavski method. He walks up to Vishu and says, I am your biggest fan, and the delivery was just so incredibly strained.
Let's look at why Baser is there, though. In reality television, a host or a special guest is never just a neutral observer. They are an instigator, They are a producer surrogate placed inside the room to deliver the instructions that the producers cannot say out loud.
The dirty work.
AC are there to hand out secret challenges, and the incentive structure here is crucial. If a contestant completes the secret challenge, they win 10,000 split coins. That is a massive infusion of wealth in the villa economy. But if they fail, they and their partner are penalized and lose 5,000 coins. The stakes are immense.
So the first victim called into the den is Vishu, and Baser gives him a deeply messy prompt. Baser tells Vishu his challenge is to hit on Preet. Now remember, Preet is newly single because Harshit just got eliminated. But the real issue is that Vishu is strongly connected to Suzanne. And the kicker of the challenge, Vishu has to hit on Preet in front of Suzanne.
He has to look his current partner in the eye and openly court another woman.
I have my hands over my face watching this. Vishu walks into the room. Suzanne is sitting right there. Preet is there. And Vishu just executes the mission. He looks at Preet and says he feels a connection, that he wants to explore playing the game with her. And Suzanne, you can visibly see her heart shatter.
Yeah, it was rough.
She bursts into tears. The betrayal is so visceral. Imagine the person who has been your anchor in this highly stressful, isolated house suddenly turning to someone else right in front of you.
It is emotionally devastating, yes. But let's look at the psychological mechanism Vishu is utilizing here. Why did he do it so seamlessly? First, the 10,000 split coins is a tangible, powerful motivator. But more importantly, the secret challenge provided him with an alibi.
An alibi? How is that an alibi?
Yes. Vishu's connection with Suzanne was secure, but perhaps he was feeling constrained. Preet is a highly influential player who is suddenly a free agent. If Vishu approaches Preet organically, he's a villain who is cheating on his partner. But if Baser tells him to do it for money,
oh wow,
Vishu gets to test the waters with Preet without technically taking the moral blame. He gets to see if Preet is receptive. If she rejects him, he can just laugh and say it was just a prank for the coins. If she is into it, he has secretly built a bridge to a new alliance. The challenge incentivized him to explore his wandering eye risk-free.
That is so dark. Because he didn't just do the bare minimum. He leaned into the performance. And the proof that it wasn't just about the money is what happened in his private interview afterwards. While Suzanne is in the other room weeping real painful tears, Vishu sits in the confessional chair and literally calls her tears magarmak ke ansu crocodile tears.
That phrase alone is the key piece of evidence. That requires a chilling level of emotional detachment.
It's sociopathic.
If he genuinely cared for Suzanne, the act of making her cry for money would have induced visible guilt or remorse. Instead, he mocked her pain to the camera. It demonstrates that he views their connection purely as a transactional utility. He is a phenomenal reality TV player because he possesses the exact lack of empathy required to manipulate the economy of the house.
It makes me sick. But you are right about the mechanics of it. He secured his wealth and tested a new alliance, all while breaking his partner's spirit. But let's move to the second challenge, because this one shifted from dark manipulation to sheer, unbelievable comedy.
I needed the comedic relief.
Kaira goes into the mischief den. Baser tells her she has to throw an impromptu pool party. Her goal is to get as many boys shirtless in the pool as possible. But the specific target is Mohit. She has to flirt with Mohit to make her brand new ideal match partner, Gullu, jealous.
The producers are playing chess here. They understand the psychological profiles of their cast. They know that Gulu's self-esteem is incredibly fragile, and his entire identity in the house is built on being the dominant alpha male.
Exactly. So Kaira puts on this stunning purple bikini. She goes out to the pool and she starts corralling the guys. She's hyping everyone up. They're splashing around. The vibe is actually great. And then she starts focusing on Mohit. And Gullu, his brain completely short circuits. He goes into full possessive overdrive. He is physically blocking Mohit from getting near her.
Which is fascinating because it highlights the conflict between status and wealth in this environment. Kaira is actively trying to earn them 10,000 split coins. She is working to enrich their shared bank account. All Gullu has to do is sit back, let her play the game, and collect the check. But he cannot regulate his emotions.
He didn't just fail to regulate them. He actively sabotaged her. He realizes very quickly that Kaira is acting strangely. He sniffs out that it is a producer-mandated prank. But instead of playing along, he runs around the perimeter of the pool, grabbing the other guys and whispering frantically into their ears, "It's a prank! Don't do it! It's a prank!"
He fundamentally misunderstood the assignment.
He totally did.
Having a good radar for producer manipulation is an excellent survival skill, but once you spot the manipulation, you are supposed to ride the wave to your advantage. Gulu's ego could not handle the optics of his partner flirting with another man, even for 5 minutes, even for fake money. He needed everyone to know that he was too smart to be fooled, and in doing so, he destroyed Kaira's strategy. He literally locked Mohit in a room.
I forgot about that part.
He cost them 5,000 coins because his fragile masculinity required immediate validation.
It was hilarious, but as a strategic partnership, it is deeply concerning. You want a partner who will let you secure the bag. Okay, moving on to Challenge 3, which features Ron.
Ron. A case study in the fight-or-flight response, specifically focusing on flight.
Baser gives Ron what should be the easiest soap opera script of the day. He has to go to Soundharya Sandy and profess his undying day-one love for her. But he has to do it while his current connection, Esmita, is sitting right there.
It is a textbook reality TV scenario. You walk in, you deliver the monologue, you endure 3 minutes of yelling, and you walk out 10,000 coins richer. It requires nothing but a momentary suspension of shame.
But Ron doesn't even have that. He walks up to where Sandy and Esmita are sitting. He sits down. He barely gets the first sentence out. Something about always having feelings for Sandy, and Esmita instantly clocks the absurdity of it. She raises her voice just a fraction of a decibel. She says, "Are you serious right now?" And Ron instantly, completely crumbles.
The structural integrity of his spine simply dissolved.
It vanished.
The moment he was perceived negatively by a female authority figure, his nervous system panicked. He threw his hands up and yelled, "It's a prank! It's a prank!" He could not hold a simple lie for 60 seconds.
The secondhand embarrassment was physical. I was cringing into my sofa. How do you go on a show that is fundamentally about deception and strategy and fold the second someone raises their voice at you?
It reveals a profound lack of commitment to the format. Ron wants the clout and the screen time of being on MTV, but he is terrified of the friction required to earn it. It is embarrassing because it shows a complete lack of resilience. But the tone of the entire house shifts drastically with the fourth challenge. This is where we examine Yogesh and Ruru.
This was intense. Baser gives Yogesh a dual option. He can either pick a massive, unprovoked fight with Garesh in front of the whole villa, or he has to go to Ruru and tell her he still has deep feelings for his ex-connection, Akanksha.
Yogesh understands the volatility of his dynamic with Ruru. He knows that pushing that button will result in an explosion. So logically, he tries the path of least resistance first. He tries to pick the fight with Garesh.
He tries so hard, but he is a terrible actor. He walks up to Garesh and starts aggressively pointing his finger, yelling the most disjointed nonsense. "Where were you when Akanksha was fighting? Why didn't you stand up for her?" And Garesh is just staring at him, completely unbothered, like, what are you talking about?
Right, nobody bought it.
Everyone in the room knows he is faking it. The fight isn't taking off. So Yogesh realizes he has to take the second option. He has to go into the lion's den with Ruru.
And this is where we see the psychological concept of the pressure cooker environment truly manifest.
Yogesh walks into the room with Ruru. You can visibly see the hesitation in his body language. He looks at her and says, "I still have feelings for Akanksha." And the reaction is instantaneous. Ruru doesn't just get annoyed, she shatters. It was a visceral, raw explosion of grief and rage.
It was loud.
She starts screaming at him. She tells him to pack his bags. She physically kicks him out of their shared space. She is yelling, "How dare you say that to me after everything we have been through?"
And what makes this fascinating is the off-camera context. If you look at the Reddit threads that analyze the background shots and combine them with contestant hints from social media, apparently the televised edit didn't even capture the full extent of his reaction.
Wait, really? What did they leave out?
After Ruru kicked them out, Yogesh didn't just walk away and wait for the prank timer to end. He kept returning to her room. 4 or 5 separate times, he broke the rules of the challenge to go back and check on her, to try and silently soothe her because he couldn't handle the severity of her distress.
Which is exactly why I will defend their connection. I know it is messy, but that right there, that is genuine emotion. Even within the confines of a cruel producer prank, their reactions were deeply authentic. The way she broke down wasn't a strategic play for screen time. It was a woman whose heart was breaking. And the fact that Yogesh couldn't stay away, even knowing it was fake, shows that he genuinely cares for her well-being. They feel like a real couple navigating an impossible situation.
We need to dissect the word genuine here, Because what you were describing as deep romantic passion is actually textbook trauma bonding, exacerbated by intermittent reinforcement.
Don't ruin this for me.
Look at the variables. They are isolated from their support systems, they are sleep-deprived, they are under constant surveillance, and their sense of safety is entirely dependent on the whims of producers. In that environment, every minor slight feels like a life-or-death betrayal, and every moment of comfort feels like profound love. The fact that he caused the pain and then repeatedly returned to act as the savior from that pain creates a cycle of codependency.
You are making it sound like a clinical pathology. Can't you just admit that in a house full of fake alliances, their anger at least proves they actually care about each other?
I will absolutely concede that the anger was real. Apathy is the opposite of love, and there was zero apathy in that room. The emotional stakes are undeniably high for them. But we must question whether a connection forged in the crucible of producer manipulation can survive in the mundane reality of the outside world. Within the ecosystem of the game, however, it is the most compelling dynamic to watch because it is entirely unscripted chaos.
It is chaos, but it has heart. But if we want to talk about chaos without any heart whatsoever, we have to talk about the final challenge. Challenge 5, the wardrobe war.
This is the moment the social experiment failed and the primitive instincts took over.
Baser calls Diksha into the den. Her challenge is inherently aggressive. She is instructed to take all of Akanksha's clothes. Akanksha, who she already actively dislikes and is forced to share a room with, and throw them completely out of the room.
Now, in any shared living situation, whether it is a college dorm or a reality TV villa, personal property is the final boundary of respect. Throwing someone's clothing is a universally recognized act of territorial aggression. It is designed to provoke a fight-or-flight response.
It is the nuclear option. Diksha goes back to the room. Akanksha is nowhere to be found. So Diksha gathers up Akanksha's belongings and just unceremoniously dumps them in the hallway outside the door. And Diksha is standing there, looking incredibly smug, clearly thinking she is creating this iconic, powerful television moment.
She miscalculated the variable of retaliation.
Completely. Akanksha walks up, sees her wardrobe on the floor, and she doesn't just yell, she escalates. Akanksha bypasses her own clothes, goes into the room, grabs Diksha's clothes, and proceeds to carry them outside. And she doesn't just put them in the hallway, she scatters Diksha's clothes across the literal dirt road outside the villa.
And the chaos becomes contagious. Because Suzanne, who has her own unresolved anger from earlier in the day, decides to involve herself. Suzanne starts actively helping Akanksha scatter the clothes in the dirt.
The situation completely deteriorates. It moves past property destruction and becomes physical. They are screaming in each other's faces, the vitriol is unhinged. Diksha shoves Akanksha. A literal aggressive physical push. And then it is just pure violence.
And again, we have to look at the secondary context here. The fan communities who slowed down the footage and monitored the online fallout noticed that the edit heavily sanitized the encounter. It was noted that Diksha, Akanksha, and Suzanne were visibly bleeding by the end of the altercation. There were deep scratches. And the most shocking, unverified detail, Suzanne allegedly picked up stones from the road and threw them at Diksha.
Throwing rocks.
Yeah.
We were talking about grown adult women hurling stones at each other over fast fashion. And the things Diksha was screaming, she was yelling threats in Hindi, saying things like Darti Chati Faregi, which translates to making her lick the dirt. The sheer venom. I was horrified.
This brings us to a crucial analysis of risk versus reward. Diksha was attempting to complete a challenge for 10,000 coins. But in her failure to regulate her anger, she breached the foundational legal rules of the production. You cannot engage in physical violence. When Sunny Leone steps in to deliver the final judgment, the economic reality of their actions comes crashing down.
Sunny was visibly furious. It wasn't just reality TV host anger, it was genuine disappointment. She lines the entire cast up. She reiterates that the network has a strict zero-tolerance policy for violence. She announces the results. Vishu passed his challenge. Diksha technically passed her challenge by moving the clothes, but UT, because Diksha initiated physical contact, Sunny drops the hammer. Diksha is stripped of the 10,000 split coins she just won, and even more devastatingly, her power card is revoked.
It is a catastrophic loss of capital and status. Diksha lost her entire standing in the game hierarchy because she couldn't control her impulse to push another human being. And the collateral damage was immense. Everyone who failed their challenges, Ron, Tane, Yogesh, Kaira, had 5,000 coins deducted from their pairs.
The collective wealth of the villa was decimated in a single afternoon. It was an economic depression caused entirely by bruised egos. And the craziest part is that the fallout isn't even confined to the show. Ruru went on Instagram Live just last night to discuss the episode.
Ah, the out-of-game PR management. It is always a fascinating epilogue.
People were in her comments calling her a thief, criticizing her for taking power and money during the game, and Ruru, sitting on her live stream, just laughed. She was completely unbothered by the vitriol and casually mentioned, "Don't worry, guys, I'm going to repay the girls their money in real life. I'll give back the $60K. She is managing the hate by attempting to clear her real-world conscience while maintaining her reality TV persona.
It highlights the surreal duality of these contestants. They are playing a ruthless game for our entertainment, but they still have to navigate their actual reputations when the cameras turn off. Which leads us to segment 1, pondering a few overarching themes from this entire spectacle. When we look at the dynamics in the villa, how do we distinguish between genuine human connection and cold, calculated game theory?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Let's take Vishu, Suzanne, and Preet as our prime example. We touched on this, but let's go deeper. Do we believe Vishu was secretly relieved when Basir handed him that challenge?
Undeniably. We discussed the alibi mechanism, but let's look at the broader implications for trust. Vishu utilized a producer mandate to enact a desire he already harbored. This teaches us that in any highly competitive environment, external pressures are often used to mask internal motives. He didn't just break a connection, he weaponized the rules of the game to do it cleanly.
It is so deeply cynical. But it works. And what about segment 2, the concept of gameplay strategy? If we remove romance entirely and just look at who is manipulating the systems of the house most effectively, who stands out?
While Saurabh and Nihariga executed a brilliant, albeit accidental, elimination, I actually believe the most sophisticated gameplay is currently coming from Anushka.
Anushka. But she is barely on the screen. She didn't do anything this episode.
Precisely. That is the genius of her strategy. The producers spent an entire episode setting psychological trap, greed, jealousy, territoriality. Diksha fell in, Gullu fell in, Yogesh fell in. They lost money, they lost power, they bled, and they destroyed their own alliances. What did Anushka do? She observed. She existed quietly. In an ecosystem where the loudest personalities are actively cannibalizing each other for screen time, the most effective survival strategy is to simply not step on the landmines. She is preserving her social capital while her competitors bankrupt theirs.
There is immense power in restraint, which is exactly what the people involved in the wardrobe war lacked. Moving into segment 3, if we want to examine the psychology of secondhand embarrassment, that entire sequence is a goldmine. Why does watching Diksha and Akanksha throw clothes make us cringe so intensely?
Because it is a violation of social norms performed with absolute unearned confidence. We feel secondhand embarrassment when we witness someone failing to realize how foolish they look. Diksha believed she was embodying a powerful dominant archetype. The dissonance between how she perceived herself as a strategic mastermind and how the audience perceived her as a petty, out-of-control participant throwing poly-blend shirts in the dirt is what generates the cringe. She sacrificed her dignity for a moment of perceived dominance and lost everything as a result.
It is the ultimate cautionary tale about keeping your composure. But let me ask you this for segment 4. As we look at this entire roster of chaotic personalities, if you were forced into that villa tomorrow, who is the one person you would actually trust? And conversely, who is the absolute most dangerous person to align with?
The metric for trust in a deceptive environment is incredibly complex. But if forced to choose, my assessment for the most trustworthy individual aligns with a rather counterintuitive logic. I would have to point toward Ruru.
I agree completely. But why does the analytical mind choose the person who is screaming and kicking people out of rooms?
Because predictability is the foundation of trust. Ruru does not possess a filter between her emotions and her actions. When she felt betrayed by Yogesh, she did not calculate the optics, she erupted. She lacks the internal machinery required to construct a long-term deceptive narrative. What you see is precisely what is occurring in her mind at that moment. In a house populated by calculated liars, the person who is incapable of hiding their volatility is, ironically, the safest bet. You always know exactly where you stand with her.
That makes so much sense. Her transparency, even when it is messy, is her most genuine trait. And on the flip side, the most dangerous.
It has to be Vishu. The ability to compartmentalize empathy is a dangerous tool. To look at a weeping partner, walk into a separate room, and deliver a witty soundbite about crocodile tears to a camera crew requires a chilling level of psychological detachment. He is the most dangerous kind of player because he understands exactly what the producers want: villainy, betrayal, cold execution, and he is willing to provide it without a second thought for the human collateral damage. He is phenomenal television, but a disastrous ally.
A disastrous ally indeed. And honestly, analyzing all of this has been exhausting, but so deeply illuminating. It truly shows why we are so captivated by these engineered social experiments. We get to watch human nature pushed to its absolute limits from the safety of our couches.
It is the ultimate coliseum of modern psychology.
Well, babes, we have thoroughly dissected another week of madness, from international television drama to the chaos residing right inside our own DMs. We covered the economics of vacation hookups, the psychological weight of an aesthetic Sunday routine, the unmatched excellence of a good bowl of dal, and the sheer terror of producer-mandated betrayal.
We truly mapped the entire spectrum of human behavior today.
We did. And now, we turn the conversation over to you, the third bestie sitting at the table. We need your rulings on the topics presented today. Which listener submission was the most unhinged? Was it the two guys on the group trip? Because my analytical co-host here seems to think that maximizing your vacation itinerary makes you a hero, and I firmly believe it disrupts the entire social fabric of a friend group. Let us know who is right.
The logic of the buffet approach is sound, but please provide your counter-arguments.
And regarding the absolute breakdown of order inside the Splitsvilla house, are these contestants getting bolder with their strategies, or are they simply losing their minds under the pressure of the environment?
I am officially classifying it as a complete structural collapse of their emotional regulation, but it is deeply entertaining to study.
And most importantly, babes, what are you doing this weekend? Are you actively romanticizing your life, pouring your matcha and manifesting peace? Or are you embracing the reality of this situation, sleeping until noon, and ignoring your text messages like a certain someone across from me?
Do not fight the horizontal doom scroll. It is a necessary component of modern survival.
However you choose to spend your time, make sure you take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the show.
It helps us continue these vital sociological investigations.
Please keep sending your unhinged submissions to our DMs. Keep the chaos coming. Analyzing your questionable life choices is our favorite part of the week.
It provides endless primary material for our research.
And be sure to send this to your messiest friend. You know the one.
Yes, the one who thinks hooking up with two people in the same friend group is a victimless crime. Send it directly to them.
Thank you to the Snark Squad for joining us. Stay shady, stay iconic, and we'll see you on the Snark side.
Now, if you will excuse me, the leftover dal is requiring my immediate attention, and I need to spend the rest of the evening contemplating a dark hypothetical. If you were standing in the mischief den and someone offered you 10,000 split coins to betray your closest ally, what would your asking price actually be?